that's a cultural issue. It's about what they value and about what they want to achieve and what their goals are. I mean,
I mean,
doesn't it?
it's related
Because
to, it's related to that, but like again, it goes back to the fact that they're using neuroscience to make sure that kids, you know, do things with their
oh, right. So you're
phones.
saying TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things. Like TikTok is a big one, but there's a lot of stuff. Like people's minds are being attacked all the time, and there's no defense. People don't even know what's happening. So like, it's just like I feel like that dynamic is something that people are afraid to talk about, but like it's
Uh huh.
real. It has a
Yeah.
huge impact on what people learn and like what information comes into the mainstream. And I feel like it's something that it doesn't get discussed, but it's something that's happening like on a large scale and has a
Yes.
huge impact. And so I just feel like that power that people have kind of put under their control, it's not under anyone's control. It's a power beyond the scope of any organization or person's control, and they're gonna
Yeah.
lose it. And that's what I'm concerned about. I can see it. I know you don't have to trust my word, but like as an instructor of like
Oh,
people for the last two
I
decades,
mean, I
like
hear what you're saying from the population at large. What's
yeah,
happening
yeah,
with I would call it propaganda, but yeah,
yeah.
I mean, certainly it preys upon ignorance and it creates ignorance, right? Because misinformation, disinformation, or causing people to focus on things that don't matter, right? Like we were saying earlier, like a lot of what's going on could very well just be a distraction, a purposeful distraction away from of things that people don't want people thinking about. But it's interesting how that relates to race, meaning from a perspective of like, let's say people are being distracted by and being kind of like entertained, so to speak. Like it's kind of it like the idea of like you're being sucked in by the algorithm and just you know which I'm I use Twitter too much, so I can relate. Um,
I mean, I can too. Like, I know it because it's happening to me too. I watch
yeah,
it
sure.
happening. I see it happen to everyone. But I'm an adult, and I know how. I know I can see. I can observe what's happening to me on a deeper level. These kids can. They have no idea that what's happening to them. They really don't.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess the question is, do you feel like that is either a causing more racism to exist, or is it B that it's just preventing growth that would reduce it?
I would say mostly B. I'd say mostly B. I think that racism can lay dormant and it can become activated. I think that social media makes it easier to activate racism.
Yeah,
Do I think that that has caused an increase? I can't tell. I can't measure that. But like,
yeah.
I do think it has given more ease for people to slide into racism and to feel comfortable with that. Um, so I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, well, I do think I mean, it's an interesting thing because there's a, and again, slicing, dicing racism is always, like you said, it's kind of like, but I think there's a component of it which is like this white supremacy or the aspect of it or the stereotype aspect of it, which is intertwined versus the fear aspect of it, which is kind of like, um, you know, this that what's happening because for a lot of people what's happening with they're absolutely convinced that like they're actually a victim, right? It's not that they're like I'm more convinced now that white people are more superior, or have I've been I have had stronger stereotypes implanted in my brain that are more negative. I don't really think either of those things are really happening in an increased amount, and I think even less so. Perhaps I think there's less negative stereotyping, and I think there's less of kind of explicit ideas around superiority and inferiority, just in general in the population. But what is growing is a huge fear that there's that is probably related to actual demographic change, but it's also related to what I was kind of statement I didn't quite finish earlier when I was talking about like the the elites or like people like me kind of like I don't think of myself as elite. I'm basically a middle class guy as far as I'm concerned. um Okay, I own a business that's
I was
so
about to say
that's
that office is not a middle class guy office. I'm sorry. I can't let you get away with that.
okay. All right. So a professional class, let's say. Um, but but I think people like me who are perceived as like allies of what folks are thinking is like you like um they're teaching people that we're bad. They're making it so that we can't get jobs. They're making it so we can't our kids can't get into school. And it's this alliance of between like this uh the black community and then the liberal elite, which do in fact have a lot of power. I like, you know, if I had someone come into my office with a MAGA hat on and I'm doing interviews, I could be influenced by that, right? And so it's so I think there is, I won't say a rightful fear, but I think there are realities in the world that are that the the shift of economic power to the cities becoming much more progressive and liberal by, you know, numbers, statistics, more I think that there is. I think that's what's really going on, and the thing that I just wish I could do, and it's terrible because I'm kind of probably do the opposite of it. Is like if someone had those fears was watching this video, they probably might be like, ah, now I feel even worse. Like I was right, but but what I really wish we could happen is like, God, how do we allay these fears?
That's the
Because
point, brother. That's exactly. I feel like you said that these fears, I guess, I guess the word I would describe how you said it was would be realistic. That there's realistic fear.
I well that and it's not realistic. It's based on
Ex-
real things happening in the world, but it's not
okay.
a realistic fear.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that. Okay, so now
Yeah.
I can say what I wanted to say, which is
Right. So like that's why I was giving you examples of like, yeah, we
there's no way to allay in unrealistic fear because it's not based on reality. There's no how can you waylay it, you know? The only way you could do it is person by person, individually finding out why that person's latching onto that fear and then unraveling that knot. I don't think that that's
yes.
realistic. So I don't think that large scale there's a way to do it except for create the conditions where that is more likely to occur on a large scale. We're not doing that either. So, like, there are some people trying to
Yeah.
do that. I would say that Braver Angels, like the organization that works on depolarization, is like probably the closest thing to anyone trying to do that on a large scale. And I think that they're focused on politics, not really like people that much. I feel like, but
Sure.
yeah, I want to do that in the race context. Basically, that's what I want to do is
Yeah. Yeah.
create a
This
different
is
environment
to
for
reduce
people.
that. Yeah. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's. I kind of think that there is, be, when you talk about irrational fears, and when we're talking about irrational fears, um, and the question of like, how do you deal with irrational fears? And I think there is a certain uh, component of like if you have someone's afraid that you're going to beat them up, like I'm going to beat up them, and if I'm really showing them with my actions and my words that no, I'm not going to beat you up, um, even though I wouldn't have done it anyways, right? It's an irrational fear. I'm not going to beat this person up, but let's say they had a fear for it. I think there's some message, and I think actually the um, the the challenge being that like for example me, I would like reparations, right? I would like some forms of I like forms of affirmative action, and so it's really hard to allay their fears when they're right. If you get what I'm saying.
I think that they're wrong about the consequences of enacting these programs. That's the point. Like if they knew the reality, then maybe they wouldn't be so scared. And I think that that's true a lot of times.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, their fear is not based on a reality. It's based on a narrative, you
Yeah.
know? And so you end up trying to fight the narrative, and that's a losing battle.
Right.
So I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to fight any narratives. I will talk to people and communicate with people about their narratives. You know, I will educate people about history, and about the present, because people need that too these days. Um, and I will tell people about my experience, and I'll share that. But ultimately, I don't see any large scale pushback on, you know, this conservative push for this Christian right wing, um, nationalism, you know, that is fueled in large part by racism. So I don't see any pushback. I feel like politically anyway, that there's this big wait and see. Let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see. You know, like maybe maybe things will just resolve on their own. I really feel like that's the mindset of especially Democrats.
Well, I think it's hard. I think though what you said is hard to come up with a solution, right? It's hard to go like, okay, what do you do about that?
I think we need to be honest about what's going on. The longer it takes us to just transparently talk about the authoritarianism that's coming in, to transparently like use the government apparatus to fight against it, which we could do. We're just not. It's like we're waiting to see if the dam will break or not, you know, instead of like reinforcing it like we know we can. It's just like it's infuriating to watch, and it makes me feel like, you know, letting things crumble a little bit might be in some people's plans, you know.
I don't know. I really think that people don't know what to do or what can be done. I think that's a big part of it because I think I everyone I know, everyone in my family, everyone in my church, all my friends, they all see it and they're all worried about it. And and but most people don't know what to do about it. They're like, yeah, okay, I can vote. I'll vote for Biden again, of course, right? And
Okay,
I'll
but
vote Democrat, but it's hard to, and they know that on a personal level, they try to be like, no, 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 you know. So I don't know.
okay,
I
but
really do think people don't
that's
know.
all a lot. Okay, first of all, so let's not poo poo it like it's nothing. Voting is really important. Talking to people in your local community is important, and it does have an impact.
Yeah.
But if we're talking on a large scale, then you have to get involved in an organized movement. It's the only way.
Yes.
And so, like, ultimately, you know, that's what I'm trying to lead, right? I'm trying to create events, but
Uh huh.
ultimately, I'm trying to show people that just let me lead. You know, just empower me to lead. You know, that's what you need. You know, like I'm built to be the leader of this to a certain extent.
Sure.
So you just have to find people who you can empower, and then actually like do it. Actually, like try to help people. Like I help people all the time with their endeavors, all the time. I've helped so many people achieve so much more than what I've been able to achieve. You know, and it's because they had support. It's because they had someone backing them. I am missing that, you
Yeah.
know, in this context. And it's very difficult to achieve despite, you know, multiple years of work here. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I've had many people say that they wanted to help through the
Yeah.
years. Okay. But have people actually taken any action? No. Do people know what actions to take? Yeah, they do. You know, just support, you know, support. If you want to be a part of the conversation, do that. It's free. Okay. Give your money if you have it, you know, like support me so I can create more events, so I can travel somewhere and do one of these events. If you know,
Sure.
if you have a church, talk to your church about getting me out there to do the event, you know, make it happen. If you have a network, then do that, you know, but people don't do these things. I feel like I'm the only one who does it. I constantly am tapping my network to help people in different regards, whether it's they're writing a book, whether they're trying to become a doctor, whether they're trying to go to a certain school, whether they're just trying to
Mm-hmm.
get mentorship, math help, like, you know, whatever it is. Like, I'm connecting people all the time. That's how other
Sure.
people need to be. They need to have a mindset that they want to help in this regard, but they need to recognize that they're not the one who's maybe going to do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a hard for a lot of people, is to think that, oh, like I can be the savior, I can do something. Maybe you can't. Maybe you just need to empower someone who has a better shot at it, or who has
Mm-hmm.
more experience at it, or something like that. But it's like something that people don't even think to do. And even when it's people are confronted with doing it, there's a lot of hesitation that I encounter about doing it. And that worries me
Yes.
because I'm like, if you don't want to, if that's something that you're hesitant about, then maybe you don't really want to do it. I
Yeah.
and like you need to investigate that. And like that's the best thing that I think everyone can do on an individual basis. Really truly
Yes.
investigate. Is that something you want? If it is something you want, have you taken action? If not, is the reason truly because you don't know what to do? I think people need to really question if that is the reason, because there's all kinds of information and resources out there about what you can do. There's all kinds of ways that you can help. So I just
Oh, sure. Sure,
think that
and people do all kinds of stuff to help with, but so in small ways. But I think what people are looking for is, how do I help in a way? What can I do as part of a more a larger effort? If you get what I'm saying.
it's all to do with politics. It's all to do with voting. It's not just your individual vote. Get other people to vote. I talked to somebody on the show last week who registered, like hundreds of
Yeah,
people to vote, right? So
yeah. Well, but that's I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. So I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's a whole political component of it. And yeah, getting out the vote and supporting. Like I give money um, to some organizations to do like lawsuits to try to stop voter suppression and that kind of stuff, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do from a political standpoint. But I think I don't know. There's a difference in what we're talking about sometimes. I think with like race issues and politics, like yeah, supporting you know uh, good politicians with good values with that are going to address the things that we want them to address. Yes, that's absolutely a thing. Dealing with the underlying problems of people's, like we're saying, fears around that they're victims, and how do we alleviate that? And then maybe you're saying like, well, you can't, so give
yeah,
up on that and do other things.
I absolutely. That's exactly my perspective. You can't alleviate people's fear for them. People have to investigate their own fears and overcome them themselves. You can, help them along that path, but like that's not anyone's role. That's like an individual problem, personal problem that people have to deal with them for themselves. So I don't think that should be anyone's goal, you know, to like help someone
Hmm.
else do that. I think your goal should be to, if you really want to make a difference on a large scale, you have to accept your place in that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people is
Hmm.
accepting that, like, while you may be on the top of a racial hierarchy, in a lot of ways, in the terms of this battle and doing something about anti-racism, you are at the very bottom of a pyramid. You are very unlikely to be successful. You are very likely to experience a significant sacrifice and trauma and danger and damage if you get too far involved in this. That is the nature of the conflict in which you're trying to get involved.
Hmm.
It's like expecting to go to a war and just everything to be just, hunky dory. No, you're in the middle of like a life and death struggle. And that's what race and racism is. It's a struggle for our humanity. It's a struggle for our humanity. You're not
Yeah.
getting out of that unscathed if you're really truly trying to fight for it. Because there are people who would rather die than see us achieve a level of humanity where we respect each other. And that is reality. That's an unfortunate reality of our country and of our existence in the world, in fact. So I think that people, if you can't even accept that reality, there's no way you could ever be a part of a large scale solution. It's like fundamental to be able to understand the world
Sure.
that how it exists and how it interacts with these issues. Like, so I just feel
Yeah.
like most people are not capable of that, for various reasons. And when you find people who are, you got to support them. And that's the best thing that you can do. Like,
Yeah.
and you can make large scale change that way. And you can watch your champion do, accomplish things, and we need to get on that train somehow. Thanks for watching. For access to the full length conversation and all of the 2 hour long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.